Chrome tabs, because this is where the live broadcast is happening. Sorry? So as you set up your PowerPoints, we have to make sure that Google Chrome is not closed or it'll stop the live broadcast. It's already, it's started, yeah, but we will let it after that. So, you can, I just, for there to be no confusion, we want to say, like, no. There we go. Already set up, and then I just have to fix the settings so that we can arrange for the audio to be seamless. Okay?
Karen, may I use your
Hello.
Is it possible to get another catch box? Is there one in the room in
One
case
in-
they need another one?
Another one you need here? I asked if we have. I look.
Because they said they might be okay with one, but in case, I was wondering if, usually there's two in the room, that's why I guess I'm asking.
It's just one.
It's just one right now? Okay. And I'll see.
And his feet.
So we have another microphone in case that we need another. We have one catch box. One is single, and one is second catch box. And the other-
Yeah.
yes. Just putting it on the drive. The side event, yes. We will. Thanks. Okay, so.
Yes. We have to resolve it.
I know, she's people have like, yeah, no, I think it's.
Okay.
What? Oh, no, it's okay. Yeah, sorry, I people arrived after. I must tell you, please not close this, because this
live broadcast.
Okay, I want to say that right. So you're presenting from. Yes,
That's right.
okay.
I created the folder, it's in the you can check. It's already there. Yes. No. There is that folder.
Good afternoon, everybody. We are about to start in a few minutes. We are still waiting for our distinguished speakers. But meanwhile, I would like really to kindly invite you to try to move closer to the podium, because obviously we don't have that many participants, and it's good to also for the speakers to see your faces. So if you don't mind, if you could move a little bit, especially the last row. Yeah, she'll join us. Okay. Once again, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our event today on the ICA, or International Consultations and Analysis. I really appreciate that you spent part of your extremely busy time during this session to join us for this event, and I hope that you'll find your participation rewarding in terms of the information and knowledge that you'll gain, that we'll share with you during the meeting. In my introductory remark, I would like just to provide you with some statistics and also to explain what we would like to achieve in this meeting. My name is Katia Semyonova. I'm manager of a Transparency Frameworks program that deals with the wide spectrum of issues relating to both developed and developing countries, and I'm also SBI coordinator. And as our distinguished panelist from India said, you are the person at the right. So, as you know, the existing MRV arrangements under the convention for developing countries are framed around the ICA process, which is a two-step process. The first step is the submission of course, this two-step process is preceded by a submission of BUR, but then the process itself comprises of BUR analysis and facilitative sharing of views under the SBI. Then a few statistics. Since the launch of ICA process at the end of 2014, we have 36 non-Annex 1 parties that submitted their BURs. And among these parties, we have already 5 that submitted the second BUR. This is very encouraging. We have 20 parties that went through the facilitative sharing of view process. And the third facilitating sharing of view workshop under the SBI will be held during this session of SBI on Monday next week. Then we have already planned the next round of BUR analysis, and it will be conducted immediately with experts nominated by parties immediately after this SBI session. Before finishing with statistics, I wanted to share with you that it is very encouraging that among the submissions of BURs, we have submissions from LDCs and SIDs, specifically from Mauritania and Jamaica. This is highly commendable and a great evidence of the efforts of these countries in preparing and submitting their BURs, and could be an example for other countries to follow. And it's also an illustration that if there is a will, there is a way. Then, before moving to highlighting some particular aspects of ICA process, I would like also to share with you that we as a Secretariat will continue to make all the efforts to provide support to parties in terms of both the preparation of BURs. This is an activity which is led by my colleague, William Bonzo, and also in facilitating technical analysis and also FSV. Now on a few highlights on the experience with ICA process. The experience of this, first of all, I wanted to highlight the experience of the Secretariat with this process. And also would like to provide some highlights on the experience from parties. Altogether, this experience is suggested that we have now a solid basis in developing of modalities, procedures, and guidelines, or also as we call them MPGs under the transparency framework, under the Paris Agreement. And the important link or nexus between the existing system and the experiences and what we will have under the Paris Agreement is clearly recognized already in the context of Article 13 of the Paris Agreement, but also in decisions that were adopted in the context of the adoption of the Paris Agreement. Then I wanted to highlight that in coordinating the implementation of ICA process, in particular, in coordinating of 7 rounds of technical analysis, we as a secretariat made a number of observations, which I hope will be very useful in order to provide for all stakeholders engaged in the implementation and also in the negotiations to provide guidance on the approaches and methodologies that parties are using in reporting information in their BURs. Because we as a secretariat are in rather unique position to go in depth in each and every submission. So we have a very good opportunity to see what are the broad emerging trends from these submissions. In addition, parties in their role also have demonstrated a very keen interest in sharing their experiences and enhancing the understanding of the process in relation to all aspects of ICA. And this is why the Secretariat is organizing this type of event already for a couple of sessions. We had a very informative and very well-attended event in Marrakesh, so we hope that this event will be even more interesting for you and provide you an opportunity for more engagement and discussion. To that end, I see the objectives of our site event to provide information, including some statistics on the implementation to date on the ICA. Secondly, to highlight some observations of the challenges and opportunities in the implementation of this process by parties and also by the Secretariat. Thirdly, we would like to use this opportunity to disseminate information on the forthcoming ICA communication and also outreach initiatives. Through the presentations that we'll give you today, both from the Secretariat and also from parties, we hope that you'll gain much better insight and understanding of how the process works. And then from the perspective of both Secretariat and parties, we would like to seek also to explore options and opportunities how to find better ways to link the emerging transparency MPGs of transparency framework under the Paris Agreement with what we have already on the ground. And last but not least, we hope to motivate more parties to submit the outstanding BURs. We are seeing quite encouraging trend in terms of submissions, but we are still not there. And we feel that submission of BURs and going through the ICA process is an excellent preparation for all actors involved for what will come under the Paris Agreement. Then when we thought about what we would like to achieve at this meeting, we felt that the best way to organize it is first of all to have 2 sets of presentations, firstly by the Secretariat and secondly by parties on their experiences, and then we'll open for questions and answers session. There will be also an opportunity for you to ask clarification questions after the presentations. So without any more words of introduction, I would like to invite my colleagues to step in and move us through the first presentation. Alma, you have the floor.
Thanks, Katja. Okay, so good afternoon. This presentation, just to give you an overview, just some quick ICA context, because the previous side events that we have had on ICA has provided quite a bit of information, and Katia has also done so. So then we're going to have an update on the technical analysis, and just to give you an outlook, what we have planned for 2017, which including statistics and observations, and the same for FSV. And lastly, on the experiences which Katia mentioned. So as you know, the ICA, the objective of it is it aims to increase the transparency of mitigation actions. And Katia already mentioned it's in two components, two phases, the technical analysis. The outcome of this phase is a summary report. And this summary report, along with the BUR, feeds into the second phase of the FSV. And just again, to summarize the principles of being non-intrusive, non-punitive, and respectful of national sovereignty. So what has happened, just to give you a quick update, from 2015, when we started the technical analysis, we've had 7 rounds, a total of 34 BURs. 14 teams have conducted these technical analyses of a number of 93 experts. And again, we've conducted them in English, French, and Spanish. And 31 of these reports have been published. Looking forward in 2017, we have 2 rounds planned. As mentioned earlier, we have it next week, 22nd to the 26th of May. And we have another round planned for December. However, that would be dependent on the resources, financial resources that we receive. So in May, next week, the 8th round of technical analysis, we'll have 7 parties, and there'll be 3 teams conducting these analyses with 18 experts in total. And of course, like before, we have in English, French, and Spanish. So just to give you a quick snapshot of the regional submissions. So out of the total 154 projected, we got 36, which is 23% of submissions. And what we've done, we've given it to you by regions. In LAC, we have 11 out of 33. So about 33% of that total. Europe here involves the Eastern European and 1 or 2 countries in West Europe. And 10 out of 12 of those parties have submitted, and 83%. Asia Pacific, we have 9 out of those 55 parties, 16%. And Africa, we have 6 out of 54, 11%. So this was based on the regional groupings that we have according to where the parties have been allocated. And again, Katia mentioned and commended the effort of the SIDS. And out of these total of 48 LDCs, we have 1 submission. And for SIDS, there are 40 SIDS. We have 2 submissions out of this total. Just to give you a quick overview of the key observations, and we will do that of GHG inventory, mitigation, and the 3rd component being on support. In the first case, the guidelines provide for parties to use the 1996 revised guidelines to prepare their greenhouse gas inventories. But what we have found is that in many cases, parties use 2006 guidelines, or they combine both. And so sometimes it's a challenge for the TTE, because the technical analysis really is conducted against the reporting provisions from the revised 1996. Nonetheless, this is done, and it's very noticeable. The number of parties, as you can see here, 14 using the 2006 guidelines, 11 using both, and 11 using the 1996, despite the fact that the reporting provisions ask for 1996. The 2006 is regarded as a more updated and better able to more efficiently conduct the analysis for non-Annex 1 parties. Another key observation we have is with regards to analyzing the time series consistency back to the years reported in previous national communications. And what we've noted is that the absence of information on updated activity data and emission factors really serves as a challenge to analyze this information. Another third key point, parties are also under reporting provisions to submit a national inventory report. What we find is that although parties submit those inventory reports, often in the BUR, they do not make reference to the NIR in the BUR, and this raises an issue of transparency. So you find the TTE then has to ask, and then the parties sometimes don't submit the NIR, and so it becomes an issue of transparency. And just to give you, parties can submit, or they have submitted the NIRs in conjunction with their BUR, and when this is done, it's considered as part of the BUR. However, some parties don't provide it. They say that the document is not publicly available, and so in providing technical clarification, they choose to either provide it or provide elements of it. And of course, that again translates into a transparency issue because the information is not reported in the BUR or adequately referenced. So these are some of the three main observations, although there are many others. On the mitigation actions and the effects, the Secretariat has observed that the parties provide very comprehensive information on the national context. They present their mitigation actions by sectors. They present it under mitigation scenarios, strategies, plans, and so on. So they're very comprehensive in the information that they provide. Mitigation actions, although reported, it's difficult to see the status because parties don't report whether it's planned, whether it's ongoing or completed. And that again is part of the provisions. The third point is on the whole approach to documenting and reporting the progress of implementation and the results achieved. So we have noticed that parties use both. They give estimated emission reductions, or they use the outcomes, and the outcomes involving sustainable development co-benefits. Quite a few parties actually report these elements. For the emission reductions, in addition to doing that, parties report on the international market mechanisms, the CDM projects in particular. And what we have found, although they are not required or the reporting provisions don't outline what type of information the mechanism should provide, parties actually provide very detailed information on their emission reductions, so it's actually part of their mitigation actions. And lastly, on domestic MRV, which is also part of the reporting provisions, we have noticed that quite a few parties are doing so, and it's not just on the domestic MRV for the mitigation, but quite a few of them have a very cross-cutting system which deals with mitigation, greenhouse gas inventory, and finance. So these are some of the key observations on the mitigation. And on the gaps, institutional arrangements, of course, is primary. And so parties, it prevents them from the sustainable reporting, preparing these reports, the BURs and in the national communications. And it also impacts the preparation of the greenhouse gas inventories. Another key observation there is a limited capacity to prepare the inventories. And most of the parties, of course, highlight the need for the use of 2006 guidelines and other methodologies to help them estimate those emission reductions. Again, in reporting financial information, parties provide very aggregated information, and sometimes they do so in different currencies, and it's very difficult for the TTEs to get a complete picture. On technology needs, although it is reported, often parties do not indicate how the needs were nationally determined, and that's part of the reporting provisions. Lastly, to participate in the technical analysis, experts have to be registered on the roster and also undergo the CD training program. We have had 5 rounds, 4 rounds are reported here. The 5th round was just completed, and so those figures are not reflected here. But in general, I think we have about 158 experts in total who are eligible. And of course, it's skewed. We have more non-Annex 1 than we have Annex 1. So this is just an update and an observation in this regard. And I'll turn you over to the FSV.
Thanks, Alma. I'll try to be quick and provide an update on the FSV. Well, the Secretariat has launched the first cycle of FSV workshop in 2016. We had 2 workshops on the facilitative sharing of views, and the implementation of these workshops has been done in accordance to the modalities and guidelines of the ICA process, and also taking into account informal consultations conducted prior to the first workshop. In this case, the process allows exchange of views among developing countries and developed countries, or in general with all parties. And there are 2 opportunities for developing countries to exchange or interact with other parties. The first option is to have a written exchange that is actually occurring prior to the workshop. In this case, parties can submit questions in advance to those parties undergoing FSB. In this year, for this the session that is scheduled for next Monday, we opened a period for submitting written questions 2 months ago. So the parties had a month to prepare and submit questions through an FSB portal, which is a new IT tool that the Secretariat implemented this year. The second opportunity to have this interaction is basically during the actual workshop. So in that case, the parties undergoing this process, which is actually after the completion of the first step of the ICA, of the technical analysis, and once these parties have the summary report published, then they prepare for this FSB workshop, and they present on the BOR. So after each presentation, they have the opportunity to exchange views and receive questions from other parties, and of course, provide answers. For 2016, we are organizing the first round of workshop in this session. So the 3rd FSB workshop will be conducted next Monday. And it really is a good opportunity for developing countries to showcase their mitigation actions, and also highlight challenges and gaps, and at the same time provide an overview of the international support needed and received. For this 3rd workshop, there will be 10 parties presenting. The list of parties, because perhaps it's not clear here in this map, is the list is composed by India, Indonesia, Israel, Malaysia, Mauritania, Montenegro, Republic of Moldova, Thailand, Uruguay, and Morocco. Where we are also planning another workshop for the next COP in November. But so far, we don't know how many countries we will have. This depends on the publication of the reports. For this SBR 46, I would like to provide information on the submitted questions through the portal. So in total, 71 questions were submitted in different categories. The biggest percentage was GHG inventories, around 44%. After that, the second category is general questions, followed by mitigation actions, domestic MRV, constraints and gaps, and 3 additional questions were raised on any other information reported in the BUR, such as adaptation. From these 71 questions submitted via the FSB portal, only 6 countries submitted questions to those countries undergoing FSB this time. And those countries submitting questions were EU, France, New Zealand, Palestine, Switzerland, and US. The experience that we have collected in previous FSB workshops has been really positive. It really provides good information on mitigation actions developed and implemented by developing countries. And good, I think these points that I try to summarize here are really important because in previous rounds of FSB, we have seen that parties demonstrated that even small countries like Costa Rica or Andorra can have great ambitions in terms of reducing GHG emissions. Of course, they also highlight the need for continued international support and in order to improve their national MRV systems. And they also provide information on challenges encountered during the BUR preparation and the ICA process, and of course, their lessons learned. Other countries like Colombia or Mexico showed that their MRV systems provide an excellent basis for solid data collection that really help inform policy decisions at national level. Even some countries mentioned that this participation in the ICA process in general really provide good insight to improve the collection system, the entire MRV, the domestic MRV implemented in their countries, and of course, enhance the transparency of the reporting. The countries have also raised challenges and constraints that they encountered during this process. And in this slide, I try really to summarize those that were highlighted during the FSB. Many are related with institutional arrangements, also the financial needs, because they say that sometimes the issue is to receive funding on time for the preparation of the BUR. There are some capacity building needs that have been highlighted too, and there are some other issues mentioned, like insufficient mechanisms for collection and verification of inventory and information, and also on mitigation. And regarding the coordination of the FSB workshop, as I mentioned at the beginning of this part of the presentation, the secretariat has provide support to the SBI to launch these FSB workshops. And in total, in the past 2 workshops, we had 20 parties participating in the process. So far, out of this participation, there are 20 FSB records published in our website. And in general, the feedback received in this process has been very positive. It's perceived as a very constructive process that facilitates transparent exchange of information between developing countries and other parties. And in general, the countries have indicated that are satisfied in the manner that the FSB has been conducted. Besides those challenges and needs raised during the FSB workshop, they think that improving this, FSB from the first to the second has been really improved. And in this year, with the launch of the FSB portal, we have received a lot of positive feedback because it really makes the process more efficient and transparent. And now I will give the floor to our team lead, Shuhon. Continue.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Xuehong Wang, and I'm the team lead of our ICA support team at the secretariat. As you just now saw, that we have a very small but efficient team. We have Alma, Karen, myself, basically, and then our Edith, our able team assistant. So that's all about this ICA support unit at the secretariat. But we are really honored, and we will try our best to provide support to parties in implementing this new but very important process. So from my part, I only have two or three slides, but basically to talk to you about our experience, Secretariat's experience, coordinating the ICA process. As you may be aware, the ICA process is quite different from the IAR process for developed country parties. For the ICA, one challenge that we faced is really in terms of planning the support activities, because parties submit BURs at different points in time. This is because all the parties, they are at different stages with preparing BURs, so they submit at different time. For us, when putting the team for technical experts together, when planning our resources, that we encounter some practical challenge. For instance, we are now currently planning for the next round of BUR analysis in December. However, we're not sure how many parties will make submission by that time. So we have completely no idea. We only have put a cutoff date by October. So by October, we receive how many numbers of submissions, and then we immediately plan the technical experts. So all is done within a very short time. So that's the challenge. And then, of course, when we decide on when to organize the BUR analysis, will inform the party that will go through the BUR analysis. So everything happens in a very short time. We'll also ask parties to bear that in mind when being notified about, the next stage of this process. Second point I would like to raise, Alma just now already talked to you about our training programs for the technical experts, and so far the statistics for us to put technical experts teams together. Based on our statistics, as said just now, we see a need to involve more experts from Annex 1 parties in the future. Right now, we have approximately 60 eligible experts from Annex 1, but in some cases, when we approach them, when putting teams together, there are different constraints. For example, some of the Annex 1 experts, they are involved in other review processes, or they have their own domestic work, or they have to secure funding from the government. So in that regard, we really ask for parties' help and support in this regard to have a more balance in terms of the technical expert team. The third point is that based on our experiences in coordinating the BUR analysis, we find that given the broad nature of the BUR reporting guidelines, the technical experts, in certain instances, they will take slightly different approach in analyzing the same issues, and that create consistency issue. And then we realized, because this process is a new process, so through time we need to really develop some more guidance to guide the technical experts so that they will take a consistent approach when analyzing the same issues across parties, so parties are being treated equally. The last point is that, right now there is a CGE training for the technical experts. However, the training material was developed already 2 years ago. So now with 2 years of BUR analysis experience, we would like to update the training with some examples reported in the parties' reports, and also some of the examples for the technical experts when analyzing this information. However, due to resource constraints, this work cannot be launched. So if we can secure more funding from the parties, and then we can launch this work to update the training. And then, so I'll be very quick here. So basically, this is our ongoing support activities. I already mentioned a few. So we're trying to enhance the pool of expert resources through outreach, also through encouraging experts participating in the training programs. Our next round of training will start in June. So it will be open from June to October this year. So we really welcome parties to nominate your expert to participate in the training to be eligible for our to undertake the BUR analysis. The Secretariat has also been developing the support tools to improve the efficiency of the process. That includes IT tools and non-IT tools. So in terms of IT tools, my colleagues just now mentioned, we have this BUR, VTR, which is virtual team room that experts will prepare the reports using this online tool, so that it really is multi-author. It allows multi-author, so that's really helps to prepare the report by the team at the same time. Also for FSV, we have this online platform to collect questions and answers so that we can monitor and track and archive the information in a systematic manner. Non-IT tools, in order to bring more consistency across the analysis of different teams, we developed some new tools like the checklist, which already have been using for the first time to prepare for the next week's BUR analysis. And then we keep updating our summary report, and also provide the guidance document for the BUR analysis, and also FSV record template. So lastly, for the communication and outreach, we have published a number of newsletters. These are on the UNFCCC website. We have organized a number of ICA site events just to share information and then share experiences, and webinars. So and also the new tool is we just now in the process of developing this ICA toolkit, and that will be published very soon. So basically, this ICA toolkit is part of the work of this to support the CGU work. We actually try to have this. This is like a one-stop shop that has all the information that parties might need in order to participate in the ICA process. It really aims to help to facilitate parties' effective preparation and participation in the ICA process. So basically, in the tool, we outline what parties would need to do when they go through the whole entire ICA process. That includes how they prepare their domestic teams in order to get ready for the BUR analysis throughout to participating in the FSV. So so when it is ready, we will publish this on the website and make this announcement perhaps at COP23 in November. So that's from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Alma and to Karen and to Shuhong. As you can see, our team that deals with the ICA is very small, but it's also very beautiful, which confirms that small is beautiful. But also importantly, this is a perfectly balanced team because Karen is from Mexico, Shuhong is from China, Alma is from St. Lucia, and Edith is from Kenya. So we cover almost all the continents. Before we move to the second set of presentations, I wanted to open the floor if you have any questions, or because I think until your memory is fresh from these presentations, maybe it's the right time to ask questions. Please.
Should I just say it?
There you go.
Hi, my name is Melissa. I'm with the National University of Singapore. I've been following ICA for some years, and I would like to thank the very small and efficient team and beautiful team. And I've attended a couple of the side events, which I find very helpful from an academic perspective to follow the Secretariat's perspective as well as the party's perspectives. I would like to ask a very simple question on the second BURs. Now, I have concerns around how the Secretariat and parties feel about prioritizing or organizing the FSVs according to the whether or not there are enough parties, obviously, to go to FSV, and whether or not you would prioritize the first-timer BURs over second-time BURs, and whether there have been views raised by parties around that. I would just like to seek some clarification on that. Thanks.
Are there any further questions? Yes, please.
Nice catch. Thank you. Just a quick question on the BUR submission. I will, as the presenter showed that there's some country parties using 1996 guideline, and then some country using 2006 guideline. I would like to know how many developing country using 1996 guideline and 2006 guideline. And you mentioned about the some party use the combine of 1996 and 2006. Can you make more clarification how they combine those guidelines? Thank you. So should I throw back?
Thank you very much. Shu Hong will, okay, we have one more question and then we go to answers.
Thank you. Marcus Nauser from the Swiss delegation, and involved in reporting and review for quite a few years. I have a question about the FSV portal. We have been very happy to have the opportunity to upload questions there. I think this has been a very good step. What we were missing from our first experience with using the FSV portal is the possibility to see questions that are raised by other parties, because this would render our work more efficient in preparing for the session here at the Bonn. I think this is an issue that may be resolved at a very technical level by simply within the portal making it possible to see what questions have been addressed to what party, so we could be more focused in our questions in the interactive session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I saw one question on the back of the room. Maybe we take it and then we respond.
Thank you very much. Claudia from Mexico. I was wondering if you could comment or reflect a little bit on the lessons learned from the available guidance that we have to prepare the BURs, thinking about the need for new guidance. And I'm thinking also about how do we link current and MRV systems that are shaping in developing countries to better inform and serve as a basis for what we are calling now accountability rules, or sort of this accounting under the lenses of transparency. Thank you.
Very good. I didn't understand your question. You wanted to elaborate further, or this was all about your question?
No, I wanted to hear from the panelists I mean, because you've been so involved in the whole FSB process and the TTE analysis. So I'm sure experts have shared views on what is guidance that is needed in terms of reporting progress and reporting what countries are doing and what are the state of the MRV systems in developing countries. Because now we are these new mandates to implement Paris should also think about what is the current state and the lessons learned of what countries are facing in order to report. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I think we have 4 very interesting questions. I'll take one of them and I leave to my colleagues to decide who will take the other 3. And I wanted to highlight the question by Switzerland on the need to see the questions by other parties. I mean, it's absolutely obvious that showing these questions makes a lot of sense, because then countries could avoid repeating the same questions many times. Technically, there are no any problems to do that. But although on the surface this issue looks very technical, as you know, in our process, unfortunately, sometimes even simple technical issues are unnecessarily made more complicated from political perspective. And so far we had essentially one party that felt uncomfortable in showing the questions, and we are still trying to work with them in order to find the best way forward so that we can show the questions. But our communications with all parties that went through the FSV so far shows that except for one party, everybody else is comfortable for the secretariat showing the questions in advance. And now I would like to give the floor to my colleagues to respond to the remaining questions.
Thank you for the very good questions. I'll be very brief. On the first question on the FSV, whether there is a prioritization of the list. Right now, we don't have the problem because now we still have a very limited number of BUR submissions. So in terms of logistical arrangements during the SBI sessions, it's fine. I mean, we can allocate one whole day for perhaps maximum we can accommodate 10 parties. So now at this stage, it's not an issue. So basically, we don't have a priority list, no matter BUR1 or BUR2. When the technical analysis reports are ready, and then the party is ready to go through this FSV session. So that's the answer to this first question. And then on the, Katya already answered the second question, I guess. And then for the IPCC guidelines, so here we put this slide back on the screen. So as you can see, these are the statistics to show how many parties reported using 2006 guidelines, how many using revised 1996 or combination. And I think one of the reasons for parties to have a combination of different guidelines is parties use 1996 for some reporting on some sectors and then 2006 for other sectors. And I think then that gives them more flexible approach to really find the best that suits them best, which methodology that they use. So that's the answer to that. And then for the last question and comment from Mexico, so one way for providing, well, if I understand correctly, your question to provide more clarity is the ICA Toolkit probably is one of the useful information source. And I think also maybe after the presentation from the our three speakers, maybe we can come back to this point, because when they present, it's a good way to share their experience with ICA process, and then maybe we can come back to your point and ask the panel to elaborate. So maybe my colleague Karen have something to add.
Thank you. Yes, it's basically that we are trying, while preparing the ICA toolkit, we are trying to incorporate all the lessons learned and experience that we have as a secretariat, but also that we have collected from parties and also the team of experts preparing the conducting the technical analysis. So the idea of this toolkit is to provide more guidance, more information to the parties.
Thank you very much. And before moving to country experiences, I just wanted also to highlight one of the lessons from the use of different sets of IPCC guidelines, which on my view is quite powerful. If for some political reasons parties agree to use very obsolete guidelines, because 96 guidelines are 20 years old and they don't reflect the most recent available scientific knowledge and information, countries are wiser than just sticking to this minimalistic approach, and then they are proactive and use much more advanced and much more comprehensive and useful 2006 guidelines. So when negotiating MPGs, I hope that parties will look at this very, very positive lesson on my view. But now we are going to the second part of our event, which is might be even more exciting than the first part, because we have three wonderful speakers that will share their experiences in the national context. And these are speakers from Costa Rica, India, and from Tunisia. And the first speaker is Mr. Felipe de Leon. He is an international climate change and renewable energy consultant who specializes in MRV, system design, and application of market-based tools to climate change mitigation. His recent work was focused on advising Costa Rican Climate Change Directorate on matters relating to transparency, MRV, and Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. He is also technical coordinator for the Partnership for Market Readiness in Costa Rica, where he works mostly in the national climate change metric system and Costa Rican offset mechanism. And I was in another event also with presentation from Costa Rica, and I found their national climate change metric system really as a role model, not only for developing countries, but I think also for some of developed countries, but this is what I hope we will hear from Felipe now. And I invite our distinguished speakers really to stick to 5 minutes in their presentations in order for us to have a little bit of space to engage in a discussion and cover particular aspects of the experience that they will share that might be of use for you. Felipe, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. It's a surprisingly packed room for what is a very, very busy day for everybody. So I'll be very brief. Next slide, please. Costa Rica submitted its first BUR in December of 2015, and we went through the steps, which you can see up on the screen, which culminated in the summary report being finalized in 27 September 2016, and our participation in the FSV session on November 10th during COP22 in Marrakesh. Next slide, please. On participation in the FSV workshop, our preparation started by trying to identify what were the key messages that we wanted to deliver. And we chose three very strong messages. We wanted to highlight the key statistics regarding the BUR results and the overarching national mitigation goal, especially comparing these two. We wanted to share information on key mitigation actions that were reported in the BUR, as well as additional actions that we were taking towards deep decarbonization. And we wanted to inform on the steps that were being taken to increase transparency, which is building this national climate change metric system that we call CINAMEC from the Spanish acronym. I would say that the most important thing that we wanted to achieve there was to communicate the country's vision on reporting on transparency. We wanted to go beyond summarizing the BUR and the National Inventory Report, because these are already published. So we felt that there was parties who were interested, or anybody who was interested could download the reports and have an in-depth look at them. So we felt that the opportunity here was not so much to have another presentation that repeated data that was already publicly available. We wanted to share with the world what we thought were the next steps in improving our reporting on MRV system. Next slide, please. So we are one of these countries that actually has a combination of 2006 and 1996 reporting guidelines. We use 2006 reporting guidelines for everything, with three very specific exceptions: emissions from the use of lubricants and paraffin waxes, emissions from harvested wood products, and emission from carbon in soils. In the three cases, the reason we continued to use 1996 guidelines was because the data that we required to consistently report using 2006 guidelines was still not available. We were still, and we are still, developing that data. We expect that we will be able to use 2006 guidelines throughout the entire BUR and inventories for future submissions. Costa Rica has been very focused in having as robust a system as possible, and this has led to some complexity. Anybody who has worked with metrics understands that when the position of the instruments you are using improves, data changes and things change, and sometimes you'll have jumps that go in your favor and sometimes you'll have jumps that go against you. And there is a need to be very transparent in how these things happen and why these things happen, so that to avoid the perception that we are playing with the numbers, that we are somehow fudging with the numbers. This was particularly relevant for us with the AFOLU, with changes regarding AFOLU. We were able to, by using 2006 guidelines, use new data and methods that were derived from our RED Plus reference level, which had already been submitted, to try to harmonize these approaches and to improve the data that was available for the forestry sector in particular. This is very important for a country like Costa Rica, which has almost 50% of its land mass covered by some form of forest. Next slide, please. So I'm going to try to focus with my last couple of minutes on applying what we learned through the ICA. I'd suggest we have 5 key lessons that came from the process as a whole, both from the technical analysis and from the FSV. One of them had to do with the recalculation of emissions before 2010. One of the issues that was brought up through the technical analysis was that we had not provided recalculated data for inventories before 2010. This was basically due to a matter of availability of data that was appropriate for the 2006 guidelines, which was still being developed and is still being developed, where we expect to be able to bridge that gap completely by the next reporting cycle. We had issues with institutional arrangements, which, as we heard from the previous presentations, is one of the common themes throughout BURs in general. We had issues with transparently communicating the underlying assumptions in both the BUR and the inventory report. This is particularly true regarding mitigation actions. And again, this seems to be one of those repeated themes throughout the process, which sort of makes me feel a little better with it. And then we had, again, completeness of information regarding mitigation actions. Finally, we received requests to provide more information, more transparently provide information on the domestic MRV arrangements. So I'm going to very quickly, next slide, please, look at how we address these. So as I mentioned before, we seek to address each one of these issues directly for the next reporting cycle. As I've mentioned, we are continuing data collection to recalculate pre-2010 inventories. This is ongoing, and we expect all inventories to be recalculated by the next reporting cycle. We are developing and deploying the integrated Marcal IFOM system for projecting mitigation action impacts. This is one of those things that I think is very easy to underestimate. The complexity involved in having robust projections is huge. And your ability to have robust projections will have a lot to do with how you're able to allocate causality once you are looking backwards at what happened throughout the years. Very few countries, or I would argue probably no country, is doing a single thing in a specific sector. We have 4, 5, 6, a dozen, 2 dozen mitigation actions occurring in simultaneous. So you might see a deviation from the business as usual scenario, but it is very hard to figure out which of these mitigation actions actually drove this reduction. And being able to figure that out, of course, is necessary for proper policy. You want to reinforce those that are actually being successful, and you want to either adapt or eliminate those that are not being successful. Finally, as I mentioned, we have been developing the National Climate Change Metric System, and we have been looking at new institutional arrangements that formally involve the Climate Change Directorate in the inventory, BUR, and national communication process. Next slide, please. This is a horribly skewed diagram of our new arrangement, which basically highlights the fact that the Climate Change Directorate and the Meteorological Institute will be co-leads in the actual development of these reports. And it also highlights the role that we now have for a newly created Scientific Council on Climate Change, which we call the 4C. This council seeks to be a non-partisan, independent and objective scientific advisory panel for the Ministry of Environment and Energy, and they will serve as a peer review panel for our reports. Next slide, please. So on Step for Enhancing Transparency, and those of you who are there who have seen our FSV or other presentations might recognize some of these slides. We have a big group of organizations that are helping us develop this, and a big group that is ever growing, I'm happy to say, to develop CINAMEC. Next slide, please. CINAMEC has 2 main objectives. One of them has to do with monitoring and accounting public policies, including the NDC goal. This has a lot to do with international reporting. And the other one is enabling data-driven policymaking. As I was mentioning earlier, it is extremely important for us to understand what is being successful and what is not being successful in our efforts to reduce our emissions and to improve our adaptation and resilience. And to do this, we need better data. Next slide, please. To do this, we have taken a system of systems approach, which basically realizes that we already have a lot of organizations that are working with climate change metrics and with some form of data that is related to this. And it would make very little sense to try to take that out of each of these organizations. So what we have built is basically a network, a system of systems that allows us to coordinate these efforts and to collate the data in a way that is, or that will allow us to collate the data in a way that is easier to report on. This will be done in a very open way. We expect to be able to develop the system in open source software and make it available to other parties who would be interested in deploying it. Next slide, please. These are the four main components of the system. It's a mitigation component, which of course is the most developed up to this point, an adaptation component, a means of implementation component, which used to be focused on climate finance but has been expanded towards other means of implementation, and a co-benefits element. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Felipe. Let's now move to our second speaker. This is Dr. Bhatt, who is international expert working as an advisor to the government of India and also working for the Ministry for the Environment, Forests and Climate Change. One of his primary functions relates to the areas of climate change, including national communications and biennial update reports, and also in the area of biodiversity. Dr. Bhatt is the right man if you have questions about the preparation of the technical engagement in the technical analysis of India BUR, and he also served as a technical focal point engaging in consultations with the TT in the secretariat in the light of publication of the summary report of the secretariat summary report on the secretariat website. He will be also representing India at the FSV workshop next Monday. Dr. Bhatt, you have the floor, and 5 minutes, please.
Thank you. Thank you, madam, first of all, for all those charitable remarks. Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. Are you able to hear me till the end? Yes. Yes. Good afternoon, I said. So, I was thinking why we are all here today. We are here all today because the common glue binding us is our commitment to address this monster of climate change. So, patiently, all of you are here hearing us. And I want to thank you one and all for sparing your valuable time and being with us. I would also begin by thanking the small and beautiful team of the secretariat. Join me in giving them a big hand. So thanks to the female power. How do we tell the world what we are doing in terms of climate change? So these are the vehicles, the BR, the BUR, the NatComs. And then there is the process. I don't have slides, but I'll engage you in a discussion with me. Then there is, you see, a process, team of technical experts, then verifying the results through Skype, talking to each other. Then Skype, after that, there is a process by which we exchange emails. And after emails, there is a dead end. So then we say, all right, to each other, in the sense, this beautiful relationship between the secretariat and the country. And then there is a summary report which secretariat churns out in consultation with the country. And then once this summary report is loaded onto the website, you see there are questions by countries. And I agree with my colleague from Switzerland. I believe Switzerland? Yes? So you see, this should be open. They should be open. I mean, one country should know what the other country is asking. We would be for that, transparency and openness. So we would welcome that kind of a thing. And then after these question answers which are given in writing, there is a process. Process is the FSV. And this is for us, 10 of the developing countries, on the 15th of this month. Now, why did I tell you all this long, boring story? Why? Because at the end of this huge peer review process, do you people know that your BRs and BURs are not taken into account by IPCC? Please fight for it. Please tell that this is a very highly peer-reviewed process. So these reports are the most authentic reports given by the governments themselves through a team of their own scientists and so on. So please urge individually. I have been trying as a member of the Bureau, but please also try so that these reports are taken into cognizance. The hard work done by the team of scientists is taken into cognizance. Now, Madam Katya has given me just 5 minutes, so cut me off, excepting for the time that I praised you people, your team. So, coming to now India. You see, we have why I am saying all this is, there is a chapter in BUR called National Circumstances. So we have 2.4% of land area of the world. In this, we are 1.2 billion plus people. So every fifth human being is an Indian. Greetings to you all from India. And in that little land, we have around 47,000 plants, 1 lakh plus animals, 30% of our flora fauna yet to be identified. We have a long, huge coastline of about 8,000 kilometers. We have thousands of islands, and we have officially recognized 16 languages, each having its own script and several thousand dialects. And we have almost 18% of the cattle population. We have 13% of all bird species in the world. And you may be thinking that with this much of assets, we must be very vulnerable. Yes, we are very vulnerable to the threat of climate change. And then you must also be feeling that there must be a great hodgepodge. How we are living? We are living all together because of just one reason, and that is, we follow climate-friendly, sustainable lifestyles. And we have ample examples of this that we have shared with other countries. I've been told that there are only 3 minutes, so I'll utilize those 3 minutes in telling you what are the challenges in this whole process. You see, with all this, we have, the Secretariat has highlighted that there are guidelines which are of 96 and they are old. But the other guidelines which are of 2006, they are also 1 decade old. They are no better. So, but this is a wonderful process. Here, there is no cut and paste technology which is available. Why? Because there are no previous experiences. This is the first time Secretariat is also learning all this, and the countries are also in the process of learning. And hence, there are a lot of questions. So these questions have to be taken in their own stride. We are not here in neither the country is in a fault-finding exercise, nor is the Secretariat. This is a sort of very good, beautiful partnership, cooperation between Secretariat and developing countries. And I must thank Secretariat for this, organizing such an open debate. And the whole process is non-punitive, non-intrusive, and respectful of the national sovereignties. So what can be better than this? And so if we remember that our obsessive focus is to tackle the monster of climate change, we must come forward and share our national data internationally. Now, on the BUR quickly, in the last 1.5 minutes, our emissions are 2.136 billion tons in 2010 inventory. And well, whether we use 96 or 2006 guidelines, we use both. And I must tell you, those of you who are into this business, that 2006 guidelines would require larger sample size, lot of primary experimentation. For example, we use 17 grades of coal. Now, if you have half a kg sample from all, and then 1 gram you burn in the bomb calorimeter and then start extrapolating and then into those many power plants and so on, imagine the range that you have to fathom. You have so many varieties of cattle. So if you want to fathom their methane emissions, again you have, so your sample size is one thing. And I feel that this process is very nice. This would constantly remind us where we are in terms of our national emissions and what we need to do. And this process must continue. Kudos to this process. And developing countries would need to be assisted. This is a very nascent process. This is not where we have a lot of experience in the past, or this is not where we are, a convert where we can do everything overnight, nor is there any previous example to borrow or cut and paste. So this is all originality that we have to do, and this process, in the opinion, in the considered opinion of my country, is good, and we are very happy to share this data internationally. Thank you one and all for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bhatt, for turning this on the surface rather technical issue in a very emotional speech that I hope will empower all of us, parties and the Secretariat, to do even better job in the future. But now it's my pleasure to present our third speaker, Dr. Samira Mus, who is an international independent expert on energy and climate change and founding director of Apex Conseil, a Tunisia-based consulting company. Dr. Mus has worked in more than 30 countries in the world, particularly in Sub-Saharan and North Africa and the Middle East. During his 30 years experience, he had been operating on a macro and micro energy and strategic studies, design and implementation of projects, and funding mechanisms, greenhouse gas emission inventory, mitigation assessment, design and implementation of MRV system, and capacity building. Dr. Amos has been involved in most of the Tunisian submissions to the UNFCCC, national communications, inventories, NDCs, and biennial reports. You have the floor, Dr. Amos.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I thought I had 20 minutes, but it seems it's much less. I love the way he gained the time anyway. So I'm not sure I will be able to do it. So I'll be obliged to go very quickly. And please, second page, just to show you the content on the presentation, with just a short presentation of the Tunisian second BOR and the 4 points that were supposed to be covered by the presentation as suggested by the side event organizer. Next, so slide number 4. So this is shows the number 4, please. Next one. It shows the content of the second BOR. We have a longer BOR than the first one, 166 reflecting the recommendation made by the ICA for more transparency and more comprehensive description of different elements. You would find national circumstances, institutional settings, for instance, were one of the recommended suggestion by ICA. Contribution of NAMAs to the mitigation policy was also one of the points addressed by the ICA. Financial capacity development and technology transfer needs. There is a new chapter on technology transfer needs, reflecting also the previous ICA process for BUR1, and MRV system description and technical annexes. Next, please. So this is just a very short presentation of the Tunisian circumstances. I just had to show you the different dates, ENDC submission in September 2015, the BUR1 and 2 submission, respectively in December 2014 and 2016, the ratification of Paris Agreement in October 2016. Next, please. So this is the institutional setting for the preparation of the BUR2. As recommended by the ICA, we describe it in a comprehensive way, the way the BUR has been prepared. Next. So this is a presentation also of historical or of emission, showing a decrease in carbon intensity in Tunisia from year 1994 to year 2012, also reflecting the recommendation made by ICA to better show the time series of emission inventories, which under the preparation of the BUR2, we had been obliged to recalculate inventories for previous, recalculate results for previous inventories. So this is the presentation of some results. And slide number 9, please. Just sorry to jump from a slide to another. But yes, this presents a comprehensive mitigation assessment from year 2017 to 2020, reflecting also the ICA recommendation for more comprehensive presentation of the expected mitigation outcomes. Yeah, next, please. Okay. Also, no, yeah, number 12, please. Yes. Number 12. So we also had to give a better presentation of the ongoing or under preparation MRV system, including national MRV system and NAMA related MRV system, as to reflect recommendation made by the ICA in the BUR1. So next. So I would like now to go to the second point in relation with the expectation for the upcoming ICA process. We really found that the first ICA process was very interesting for us and allowed us to put a better focus on the area where the international community is willing to know more about climate change in countries. So we try to reflect in BUR2 all the recommendations made by the ICA. And for the next process, which is going to take place very soon, next week, we would welcome to see whether the recommendation of the previous ICA, we were able to take them into account correctly or not, especially regarding clarity, transparency, comprehensiveness, and completeness. And also we look forward to have any other recommendation that would help us in improving quality of the next BUR. For example, on GHG inventories, on need assessment, for instance. So next. So what are the key lessons that we had from the ICA FSCV process? During the questions that have been received from countries, they had real considerable contribution to orienting the way BUR chapter should be completed. We put a special focus on more transparency, with more detailed national circumstances, more description on the inventory methodologies and approaches used, better description of institutional arrangements, particularly for inventory and BUR preparation, and more detailed description of TT needs. And you will find the responses that we've been able to make on BUR2. Next, please. Other second lesson that we could focus on, the questions that we received from party had also important technical implication, particularly on inventory preparation, which was the most importantly covered area in the FSV process. Then we have been able to consolidate the use of IPCC 2006, because even in BUR1, we were able to use completely the IPCC 2006. We also made some effort to upgrade some calculation from tier 2 to tier 3 or from tier 1 to tier 2, reflecting the recommendation made by the countries. We had also been able to make deeper work on key source category. You could check on the BUR2 of Tunisia. Also deeper work on uncertainty assessment. We have been also able to recalculate inventory emission for years 1994, 2000, and 2010. And we had substantial improvement in historical emission description and analysis of time series. Next, please. So how the finding from the technical analysis and the FSV question have contributed to the preparation of the second BUR of Tunisia. So first, we had the same team involved in the preparation of BUR1, which was a very important aspect to have a continuation of the process and a learning process from the BUR1. We had a better participatory process thanks to UNDP support, and we could provide for better ownership of the BUR2. We had also a special focus on better transparency of the information, and we had substantial improvement of the GHG inventory, which as I told you, was one of the most important covered aspects of the ICA and FSC, with the tier upgrade, more comprehensive key source category analysis, uncertainty assessment and recalculation, and time series analysis. Next, please. Some critical points relates to formal institutional setting, which actually have progressed a lot. We are under operationalization of the GHG inventory and BUR preparation institutional framework, and there is an ongoing work to improve GHG inventory process. Also, we put a special emphasis on implementing an integrated national MRV system, which is under initiation, with common points that should be covered: awareness building, need for adequate and sustainable resources to implement or to be allocated, and Tunisian authorities are currently identifying international supports to launch such national MRV system. And last slide, what were BUR challenging issue for Tunisia? First of all, use of IPCC 2006 was not an issue because we used to use it in the past, but there were some challenging factors related to ways and resources, for instance, financial capacity, time to improve the quality of the inventory, to upgrade tier methods to mobilize teams to improve activity data and emission factor, to also implement the uncertainty assessment and key source categories. Also, there is a need to need for sustainable and formalized organizational institution framework to facilitate BUR preparation in the future and participation to ICA process. There is also need for sustainable and formalized MRV system, which in return will facilitate and quicken BUR monitoring and update, because this is one of the issue too, how to prepare a BUR in very short time if we don't have a sustainable system that provides information and data on timely manner. So there is a need to establish something to be able to better quantify impacts and progress of GHG policies and measures, and quantify financial support received in relation with climate change. So thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amos. We are running short of time, but we can still spill over a couple of minutes. So you have the floor to reflect on this very, very, very rich and enlightening presentation, even for us who we think we know everything about what countries are doing, but we learn a lot from these presentations. Please.
Thank you. I will be brief. My name is Arturo Valderas. I work at the Center for Climate Change, Economics and Policy at the University of Leeds, and I'm from Mexico too. So I have two questions. To what extent have you seen in the communications that countries are moving to the use of Tier 2 and Tier 3 data in the ICAs? And the second question, subnational jurisdictions are doing their own climate policies and inventories. Have you seen that the countries are aggregating data from the local to regional to the national level? Thank you.
Very good. So these are two inventory-related questions. Any other questions? No? Then I would like to ask the panelists to reflect very quickly on these two questions.
Regarding your question of Tier 2 to 3, yes, we are doing that. We are moving, we are riding the tier ladder. The other question I couldn't catch. Can you just quickly say what it is?
Yes. If you are using local and regional data to estimate the national figures. And the first question was also pointed to the ICA to see if in general the countries are doing these changes.
For upgrading tier to tier, it's just, I would say, it depends on the national circumstances sometimes, or even on source categories. It depends. Sometimes you could use, for example, for Tunisia cement sector, we could use Tier 3, but for other sector we were able only to use Tier 2 or Tier 1. Now, if we would like to upgrade more and more, that means we would need some more resources to improve activity data and emission factor that would reflect the national circumstances. I didn't get your second question, sorry.
Yes, just quickly.
Aggregating data?
Yeah, for instance, in Mexico, there are 32 states and 2,400 municipalities which are doing their own inventories.
Okay.
So is this data consistent to the data presented at the national level?
Okay, so it's not our problem in Tunisia. We have only 11 million persons. Capacities are there, and the institutions that are that have data in general are very well known. So there are maybe 15 to 20 organizations that are available, I would say, if they are addressed anyway.
Quickly, on the Indian side, at national level, we have 137, and state level, we also have that state and federal and state system. So at state level, national level 137, and state level 286 policies and measures relevant to climate change, which have been aggregated, mapped on a non-exhaustive basis. Thank you.
Very quickly, from Costa Rica's perspective, so we are as well writing the tier ladder. One of the issues or one of the ways we expect to be able to invest more money in improving our tiers is by improving our data collection systems. The less time and resources we have to spend in what is usually the very time-consuming and expensive process of gathering data for each one of these processes, the more time and money we can spend on improving the tiers, on improving the emissions factors and doing that. So this is something we are focused very much on. On the aggregation issue, we have a similar situation to Tunisia. We're a very small country. However, I have had the privilege of working with a few other larger countries. And one of the issues I have found there over and over again is that inventories, if the inventories focus only on this very specific local emissions, they often miss opportunities for mitigation actions that they could take that would impact emissions further up the stream. So it is, in my opinion, not only an issue of aggregation of data, but also an issue of overlapping jurisdictions to some degree.
Maybe from the secretariat perspective and the experience on aggregating of data, even some large developed countries, when they have quite well-developed inventories at the subnational level, they rarely or almost never use aggregation of data. The national inventory is always based on the national level statistics, because it's extremely difficult to reconcile the national level statistics with the statistics at the subnational level, and therefore difficult to reconcile then inventory. But there is no question that it's extremely useful, in addition to national inventories, also to have for policy purposes inventories at the subnational level or even at the state level. Because as Philippe mentioned, this really inventory provides a very powerful tool for data-driven policy making. This is what we would like to see in this convention. And on your other question, maybe Shuhong will.
It's a very good point that you made, and this is the work that we are just going to launch, actually, because given that we now receive like 36 submissions from 36, and then we're trying to do some statistics, do some analysis to observe the trend, and then to see how better targeted capacity building can be done in certain areas, for example, to move from tier 2 to tier 3. And also that will hopefully serve the purpose of the development of the MPG for the new transparency framework that will shed light on those. So that's the work that we are just going to launch. But thank you for bringing this up.
Thank you very much, Shuhong. I will not attempt even to summarize these extremely useful presentations and discussions, but still I'm quite tempted to highlight at least 2 or 3 points. My first point is that the presentations that were made it very clear that parties are approaching their reporting obligations in a very serious manner. They don't look at them just as a legal obligation. You click the box and you move further. But they really look at their BURs and national communications as a tool to frame in a smart and creative way their policies and achievements in addressing climate change. And as Dr. Bat mentioned, these are really the most authoritative reports of what countries are doing, what they are achieving, where are the challenges, and where their needs and concerns are. The second very important point also in terms of the lessons learned is that it's not possible to get everything right from the very outset. The whole system is very dynamic. It's a living system. It's evolving system. And hopefully it follows an upward spiral of learning, knowledge, improvement, and ambition. And I think this is very important for all of us to take into account when we are now engaging also in negotiations of the MPGs under the Paris Agreement. Thank you very much. We really appreciate you coming here and joining us for this important session. And I would like to thank our wonderful speakers. And I hope that maybe at our next meeting, there will be changing roles and you'll be joining us on the podium and our speakers will ask, hopefully, a little bit more difficult and provocative questions. But I see that Dr. Bat would like to contribute.
Not that I wanted to have the last word, ma'am. It would be yours. But I would only say that this is a good learning exercise. and learning by doing, and to learn how to walk is to crawl. So everybody is in the learning state. Your secretariat's toolkit will be a very welcome step, and online courses are very good. Please continue your online courses. They are very useful to many of the developing countries. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I have been very strong.